What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Metro Hana podcast with your boys, except in reverse roles. I will be hosting and asking the questions, and Willie will be the guy talking about the sermon he just gave this past weekend about how we've never been more offended before. Willie Paul, how you doing, man?
Good, dude. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
I think just off the bat, I've made tremendous progress, correct, as far
Yeah.
as my offensive chewing habits that I've had.
Okay, there are a few things that I need to address right off the top. Number one, say let's get him more sleep. I told the story about her being newborn. You don't get more than 2 hours of sleep; it's really rough. But she's sleeping pretty much through the night, getting like a consistent 4 to 5 hour stretch, which is like
That's
a huge
good.
deal. And then like usually an hour and a half to two after that. So everyone who I talked to said it's terrible, but it gets better. It's starting to get better. Second, hey, this is the last Hana Ho episode for the summer. We're going to be going on what's called the Hana Ho hiatus. We're going to do a little bit of revamping, come back in August. So it's going to be really cool. Thanks for being along in the journey and letting me do this. And third, Cameron, you are actually very considerate. You made a ton of progress. I threw you under the bus. You got a new nickname out of this Sunday.
Yeah, I did. Lots of people calling me Slurpee, but I've been very conscious about it. I appreciate you confronting me about it because it is something I do not notice at times. And this is for my mom. You didn't raise a slob of a son. Hi, mom. You've raised me well, and I am no longer chewing with my mouth open. Large
And
part to do with my wife scolding me as well for that.
you raised him to be compassionate, understanding, and respectful. So thanks, Cam's mom. Shout out to Cam's mom. I know she's listening right now.
And also to my wife who makes sure that I don't act a fool in public. But
Yeah, what's up,
for
Mia?
for that brief for that brief time when we were sharing that office together, I know I've pushed some of your buttons. Having a roommate can do that at times.
Buddy. Oh, buddy.
But I just want to even the playing field because you put me on blast this weekend, so maybe it's my turn to put you a little bit on blast. Well, why don't
Please
you
do.
ask me what were some of my pet peeves of having you in the office at
Oh,
work?
let's get into this. Let's just start talking. What are some of the let's change the subject. No, what were they? What were they?
What were
I
they?
know that they're pretty. Let me just guess. I'm very
Hmm,
messy and
yes.
unorganized. So I'd leave like
Yes.
papers everywhere.
So
Uh,
Willie had the front half of the office, and I drew an imaginary line where our desks were. So I held the back half, he held the front half. And it was just a youth ministry, like tornado disaster zone up front.
pool
And I
noodles
just felt like
everywhere. Dodgeballs
mm,
strewn about.
Nerf bullets all over the place,
Yeah,
wires of video games in all sorts of places. And that would drive me up the wall because it was like,
you
nah.
are fairly organized and clean. So that was very appreciated.
So once Willie moved out, I was like, reclaiming this area, office completely clean.
Yeah, it's spotless now. You go in to Cam's office. He's got like white walls that are like all clean, a white coffee table. It's just like it feels clinical in there.
Clinical.
That's after I left. Was
Mm,
that the biggest one that bugged you?
what's the biggest one? I guess that was kind of my biggest one, that it was always a youth ministry tornado disaster zone. And it was much that left in that. But honestly, I'm not that irritated most of the time. It takes a lot to kind of get on my pet peeve side. But maybe just to be silly on it. Maybe my pet peeve is when people are ungrateful for letting them use half your office for a whole time and start blasting you about
I
you
never
know
said I
how you
was
chew.
ungrateful, Cameron. I never said it. I said it was awesome. It was a blessing. It just came with a consequence. I thought, maybe this is too good to be true. Just in a very
Oh man.
small way. Just for
Oh
30 to
man.
40 minutes a day, it was no longer a blessing.
And you know what? We became friends because of it. And that's the cool thing about the sermon I think you gave and all of it, because we can hold on to like these pet peeves and offenses that just sort of blackmail the other person, just like, you know what he does? He chews with the mouth open. He's disgusting. Don't ever eat lunch with him. And I was kind of thinking about how if we held on to our offenses when we were being roommates, and how different our workplace environment could be, and how different things might have been even for our relationship. So I guess to go deeper into what you shared this weekend, like how do you move past some of these like offenses that you might have, or these personal preferences that you hold to, and how do you practically walk through that?
I think it's really just like for me, mostly it's like a mindset shift. This is kind of like cheesy, but I think of the um, Abraham Lincoln quote where he says, "Do I not destroy my enemy when I make him my friend?" And so it's like there's this person who offends me, but if I trust in the teachings of Jesus that I should go out of my way to bless and love my enemies, then like there is a potential pipeline of enemy to friend,
Mm,
where this person doesn't offend you because they respect you and like they want to be friends with you, you know? And so that's kind of like in a very small scale, because I wouldn't consider you my enemies, even as you slurp the Pokeball. Um, I wouldn't have considered you my enemy, but it was like, hey, I there's this guy does one thing that offends me, but otherwise I really like him, I respect him, and I'm gonna like take steps to see him as a friend instead of letting
mm,
this like fester, you know? And that's on a small scale. I know that on different things, there are some people that like just to the core of their being just get on your nerves.
mm,
I've had those people too. But it's really just the humility of saying, okay, I'm not in the right here. Like, even though argument wise, I may be right, uh, what Jesus teaches, I'm not in the right here.
mm. No, I like that. Or, I mean, we joke about it, but on a small scale, it was that one offense that you and I would have had against each other. And if we had focused solely on that, I would have just focused on you being a Slav and just how everything is disorganized and messy. And you focus on how disgusting I am when I eat, how detrimental that could have been for not just our friendship, but even our work environment. And how sometimes when we fixate on that, one thing that's wrong about that person is almost like, I'm focusing on that speck in your eye and you're
Yeah.
disgusting and I'm never going to talk to you again. And we base all of our opinions off of that. And sometimes it's only a personal preference. It's that's what the offense it has caused, and we just think of them as a terrible person and turn them into an enemy. So
Yeah. It can really snowball if you let it, you know?
mm,
And so it's kind of like it's the sooner you can, I guess, nip it in the bud,
mm,
the better.
yeah, which I think you did really well in just walking us through that. So
Oh shucks.
how do you sort of get to that point? I think when we're talking on a small scale, it's easy to trivialize and make fun of it, but maybe there's something that might have deeply offended us or hurt. And there's a radical call that Jesus gives us to love and forgiveness and grace. How do you kind of walk that path, I guess, into where we got?
I think there's a couple things that we probably should do, and this is where I was kind of like wrestling with the message. It's like, okay, do I put something about like confrontation and like making
Mm,
things right and all of that, and
yeah.
restoration of relationship? But I was like, I'm kind of at. I feel like that would have went down like a rabbit trail, a different path
Mm,
than I would have had a split as opposed to like a unified message. And you know, I think in a whether it is in a small scale or a large scale, I mean not large scale, but like in a deeper offense, it's laid out in Matthew, where you go confront the person, you just talk to them, say, "Hey, I didn't appreciate that X Y Z," and then if they don't respond, then like you take someone else with you, not to gang up on them, but to just kind of like back you up. You're like, hey, this is actually a problem. And then like at a certain point, you're just like, okay, this can't be fixed, but I did my responsibility and I tried, you know? And so, I mean, with you, I had this is again, small scale, slightly funny, slightly trivial, but I actually had to like work up the courage to like, I got to confront Cam about this because I hate confrontation. I was like, I gotta talk to Cam about this. And so I told you, I was like, hey man, like it's nasty to me to listen to you eat. And you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. And so there are some things where uh, we assume bad intent on the other person's part, where it's like, man, Cam is disgusting. He's doing this on purpose, like blah blah blah. But really, it's just like you weren't even thinking about it. And then once I said something, you were like, oh, okay, let me fix that. And it could be that, or it could be like the person that you confront is, hey, deal with it. I don't care. And it's like, okay, that's pretty wildly rude. But if it's like in a work thing, you can bring another coworker, have like a family meeting, and really just try to work on it. Because if we think about it, is the offense and holding on to the offense worth losing the relationship with this person? You know?
Or even like losing your own sanity over it. Because if you just held that in and kept it in for years, and one day you just blow up at me going, "You're completely disgusting. I can't believe you do this." And it, whatever sets you off the tinderbox, I would have been just side-minded and
Yeah,
completely
because you would have
unaware
had
that
no idea.
no. And I think our encouragement through all of this, and something I learned recently, that I hate confrontation too. It just raises my blood pressure and makes me all anxious and stressed, which is next week's sermon. But like there's a aspect about it where if we reframe it and think, hey, you know what? If I come at this with kindness and love, and I really want to help this person, confrontation can be a gift. Like I actually remember that time you confronted me about it. I know you were a little more irritated when you said it. The way I remember you saying it was like, "Can you not?" I was like, "What?"
I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, man.
but I remember when you fully said it, and it was, "Dude, you're like chewing with your mouth open. It's kind of gross." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. I can change that." Like that was totally my heart. I wasn't like offended or just like, "Oh my gosh, like deal with it. Like this is how I eat." I didn't want to be that person. And it helped me to realize, do I chew with my mouth open? I actually asked my wife later on. She was like, yeah, you do. Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah, I'm going to fix that. So sometimes I will consciously say, close your mouth, close your mouth. And it's helped me, I'm sure.
Yeah, and like with you, with me being messy, I would lose stuff all the time. And
Mhm.
so if I recall correctly, there was one time where you're just like, hey, can you just like pick up a little bit? And I was like, okay. Sorry. And then like I tried to keep on top of like keeping the office clean. And it was like, oh, I know where things are now. Like, and so there, we often say that verse, iron sharpens iron, but you don't get sharpened without knocking stuff off. And so
Yeah.
like those little confrontations where it's like, oh, I think I do have to knock that out or cut that out. And it's like that's confrontation can, if done correctly, help us to be better people.
Yeah. And I think if you come in with the right heart of not, I'm gonna cut down this person for the offense they caused me, which is kind of the thing you were talking about in the beginning, where if we're just gonna go eye for an eye, tit for tat, and hurt them because they hurt me, that's not the heart of Jesus. That's not what we're trying to do. But if you confront with the heart of, no, I love you so much to the point I don't want you to go down this way, and it's like it's detrimental to you. It could actually be harmful for you in the future, whether it's offending someone else or just having rice fall out of your mouth while you slurp, or losing something really important like a document or a file that you needed. Like there's things that we're helping one another
Yeah,
grow
and
and to be
the
good.
hardest part that I kind of wish I got a little more into.
Hmm.
Hardest thing with this right now is in politics
Oh
and
yes.
understanding that the person on the other side of the aisle is the person who deserves God's radical grace and forgiveness.
Mm,
And because, dude, I've seen people that I love and respect post things on
mm.
Instagram. That's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is like wildly offensive. And like confronting them out of love, not like, hey, here's why you're wrong, but just like, dude, think about what you're saying. It's
Mm,
like, whoa, I didn't think about it that way. And it's like,
mm.
this is not, you're wrong. Here's 18 different like Instagram infographics about why you're
Yeah.
wrong. But like, dude, this is not your heart. Like, think
Mm,
about it
mm.
before you post it, you know?
Yeah, that's just been the challenge of these past 2.5 years of pandemic of not being able to lovingly confront each other in that way. And it's unfortunately devolved into just interweb battles that aren't good or healthy. Or I don't know, I've been on the other side of I just won't say anything
Yeah.
and sort of compartmentalize them into their Instagram space. And when I see them in person, there's like this weird disconnect of, I know you posted that, but here you are in front of me. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, man, because
But
it's like they're posting about a faceless other, you know, and it's like, hey,
mhm,
you're talking about me, or like
yeah.
vice versa. I post about a faceless other on the other side, and it's
Hmm.
like, wait, I'm actually talking about this person, and
Hmm.
like, I don't know, it's tough, but like
Yeah.
because it is a lot of these things are something that we all feel like super deeply about, feel super
Mm,
strongly about, and so this offense can hurt very deeply. But you have to
yeah.
realize like what's more important, your political party winning or following the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah. Which I
What
just
it comes
felt
down
so
to.
strongly about through the whole time we were going through. And I agree with you 100% on that. Like what hill are we willing to die on? And I was so like amazed and shocked at how far some of these things went through that time. But no, no politics to talk on that.
Yeah, we're not
You
talking
kind of laid
about
out
politics,
three.
just the idea of politics. Yeah.
Mhm. To kind of help with that though, you kind of laid out these three things for us to kind of go through. I really liked your first one about touching grass. I laughed at that.
Dude, I love it. It's so funny.
And then just assuming compassion for the someone and just working towards that deep forgiveness. Like walk us through that process. How do you think that that looks out practically for someone in their life? If say it's they see a political thing someone posted or they were hurt by someone said or whatnot. How do you kind of walk through those three areas?
The first one is more like for especially like online stuff where
Mm,
there's like people who post things and I type out a big response and then I like take a second. I'm like, who is this helping? What is this
mm,
gonna accomplish? Does this even matter?
yeah.
And so I just delete it. And it's like there's a time and a place for like expressing your opinions and expressing your
Mm,
beliefs and everything. I think most of the time, especially online, it is not conducive to like healthy
yeah.
conversations. You know, so there's a time and a place. I'm not saying this is like a blanket for everything. Don't ever get involved in anything online. But like, just think about what am I doing? Like, is this
Mm,
long-winded message that I'm going to send this person going to accomplish anything, or
yeah.
am I just getting worked up? You
Mm,
know, it's that stuff where it's like, hey, me being offended, me holding on to offense isn't going to change anything.
mm.
So can I
I think
just like choose to give this up?
you had a cool visual of that when you see the 315 comment thread of very controversial topic and you're just like, ooh, let me throw my thought into this
Oh,
whole thing.
dog! If you don't follow Kanye on Instagram, few months ago. Oh, it was juicy. Every hour had an extra 1,000 comments. Just scroll
Oh
through it. It
wow.
was like grapes off a vine, delicious.
I think
Yeah.
that's the hard part, right? The temptation is you're drawn to it like moths to a lamp because there's drama there. There's something that you want to sort of get your needy fingers into. But I think for me, when I get to that point, I love your touch grass thing. There's a when I start to get worked up and tempted to throw my opinion into the fire, there's a part of me going, I think I'm spending too much time online. Especially if I start get worked up in a for against this particular person just based on their Instagram posts or what they're saying on Facebook. I'm going, I think I've hit my daily quota of bad news. I think I need to see reality and
Yeah,
be either in nature or with somebody. So I'm really happy you talked about touching grass, actually physically being out there versus uh, seeing it through a screen, which is how much what we tend to do.
yeah.
How do you shorten the distance to compassion? That's the one that I find a hard time with at times.
Okay, this one is like that weird, easy but difficult and like kind of case by case.
Mm,
Because like when we're offended, it's like, okay, I have the right to be offended, but let me just take a second to think about where the other person may be coming from.
mm,
Because I'm like we talked about a little earlier, we often assume bad intention from the other person, but it's like, hey, what if they didn't even think and they said something
mm,
and it was just like way more offensive than they thought it was supposed than they intended it to be. Or like I mean, let's go back to the classic example. What if your coworker is eating loud and you assume that they're like doing this to irritate you, but
like on
like
purpose.
yeah, they're doing it on purpose, but it's like, hey, let me shorten the distance and just think like not try to like excuse it away, but just like, hey, let me try to see what where they may be coming from. It's like, hey, maybe they don't know.
Yeah.
And like uh that'll help to buffer the offense so that you can
Mm,
like lovingly confront them and like
yeah.
not go into it all guns blazing, headbutting
Mm,
them, And so like there's stuff that is like offensive.
mm,
Stuff like posting the stuff that people post online, the people that you know, it is like genuinely offensive. But it's like, hey,
mm,
maybe they've been like in the algorithm for 3 weeks and they're just lost in the sauce right now. And like
mm,
if I was in their shoes, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
mm,
And so it doesn't negate that what they posted or what they said or what they did is offensive, but it just helps us to see, okay, they're a human. They're
mm,
not like a monster that's doing this just to like get everyone all riled up,
yeah.
Sometimes they are.
Mm,
Sometimes people do that because they think it's funny or whatever, but
mm,
I think most of the time we can when we work towards trying to see the other person's perspective and where the other person is coming from, it makes being able to let go of the offense a lot easier.
yeah. I loved your example of you say you're in traffic and somebody is like weaving in and out and just being a complete jerk in in the lanes. You just go, I guess they gotta take a dump. They're they have the runs. They gotta, cause they're in a rush. Hope, Godspeed.
Yeah, man,
And
because it's like I'm not gonna follow them and like confront them.
mm,
It's like that's how you get into like road fights.
yeah.
And so it's like, hey, not I'm not gonna like I can't go change their attitude. I can't go change their actions right now. What am I
Mm,
doing with my own heart? My own
yeah.
soul. And so it's like I'm just gonna assume, probably wrongly, but like if I was in that situation, I'd hope that people would assume that about me.
Yeah. I think it's assume the best in people rather than assume the worst because I get so quick to judge and think, you know what, they're just a terrible human being, scum of the earth, they don't deserve to live. Horrible
Oh,
individual. I'm
oh,
going to the
Cameron,
umpteenth.
you've been playing too
But
much Warhammer, huh?
I think the heart though is ultimately I gotta assume the best in them. I remember one time I took offense to what somebody said, And I was just seething mad, just like, how dare they say that? Like, oh my gosh. And then I actually confronted them about it because it was just burning me like deep inside, unforgiveness wise. And then they're like, oh, dude, I totally did not mean to say that. I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
here I was taking it as a personal attack. Like they were saying that to me specifically. But in the end, no, they did not mean that at all. And it totally diffused me and kind of made me go walk back, go, whoa, I made up a story in my head that was not true. And I think sometimes having that compassion of, you know what, I get kind of squirrely too and messed up. And I would hope people have the best assumptions about me. I can do that for somebody else. There's that compassion that we have for others.
Not always easy. Not always
Not
easy,
always.
especially when you're in the moment and like temperatures are flared up and everything.
Mhm.
But shortening the time, I think, is
Mm,
shortening the time and the distance to what the offense to like compassion and understanding. I think is like the act of being transformed like Jesus.
mhm. Definitely. Well, there's one more step, right? As far as all of this, and the biggest one I think is the deep forgiveness side of things. You want to elaborate on that a little more? What does that mean and look like? And I know it's the level three of all of this.
Yeah, this is like the really hard one. This is the non-trivial, non-one-time confrontation. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. This is like when
Mm,
someone has deeply scarred and wounded you, and you have like lifelong offense and pain because of that.
mm,
This isn't the oh, just assume that they didn't mean it. But like that might be part of it, but I think it's more like uh, as I said, just like working with counselors, therapists, trusted communities to walk towards forgiveness, not like
mm,
make the jump and just like pretend that everything's okay,
mm,
but like uh, through difficult work, like
mm.
letting go of it, and it takes a long time. And it's
Yeah.
painful, not easy, but as Jesus promises, it's so worth it.
Mm. I think you said it really well there, which segues really nicely into our every podcast mention of being in a healthy community. Connect groups are a great place to process these deep hurts, to be with others who will help you through tough times and offenses that you might have be harboring or even unforgiveness. And for those to point you to the ways of Jesus, to not be stuck in that cycle loop of rehashing prior offenses and holding on to unforgiveness for a long time. So we highly encourage you, if you're not a part of one, to be in a connect group, to grow in that way and to let go of some of these deep harbored things. So if you're not in one, visit our website. We have a connect group finder for you to help you find one of these places to grow in. And if you need help finding one, please email Diane@metrochristianchurch.com or anyone on staff. We're more than happy to help you through this process. Well, Willie, you had any other things you wanted to say in the message that you can't on the podcast, seeing as we're going to be on hiatus for a little bit?
So the funniest and most offensive thing anyone has ever said about me was that I look like Captain America at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yee.
I'm working on forgiving that person. You know who you are.
I think you look more like Spider-Man, to be honest. Like on the
Thank you.
staff, we would say you are most like Tom Holland.
It's because I'm so good looking and charming, right? Right, Cameron? Right?
Yes,
Right,
yes,
Cameron?
very much so, dude. I think the most offensive thing someone told me once was of course, I'm left-handed. I always show, when I'm writing on a board or paper, people say, "Oh, you're left-handed." I guess maybe there's two things. First off, when I was writing, someone told me, "You write like a girl."
Mm,
Thanks. And then
backhanded compliment.
the other one I heard was, left-handed people have a shorter life expectancy than right-handed people.
Just out of the
And
blue?
I was like, out of the blue. I was like, Excuse me?
That's wild.
And you know what the worst part was? I looked it up.
It's true.
He's right. It's true.
Oh, Cam, I hope you're taking your vitamins and doing your cardio.
So apparently it's we're more prone to accidents and because we live in a right-handed world.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Huh. I guess I never
So
thought about that.
added stress of it. And yeah. So pray for the left-handers in your life. We live shorter.
May the Lord protect you, Cameron.
And also with you through this
Ooh.
hiatus that we'll go through. We will miss each and every single one of you and being able to share this time, but we're looking to come back even better, maybe featured guests, we'll better planned out synopses and whatnot we'll look forward to. Maybe we'll even have a better backdrop, Willie, hint, hint. But
Ooh, Cam, don't give too much away. Don't give too much away.
but we look forward to what this next season will be. How long are we on hiatus for, Willie?
Till August.
Till August. So
Oh,
until the end.
yeah.
Oh,
Speaking of summer, if you are a youth, middle of high school, or you know someone, part of why we're doing this is because we have like the entire summer chock full of events for youth. So shoot me an email. I'll see you on Sunday. I've been passing out the calendars and everything, but super stoked for it.
yeah, we have an exciting youth summer extravaganza planned. So stay tuned to our church announcements and Metro Minute to see all the wonderful things God will be doing at our church and all the great events that we have planned. But until August, we will Hana ho hiatus until then. Willie Paul, thank you for holding it down all this time. I know this podcast was birthed out of the pandemic, and we will see how we can continue it forward, new and improved and even better.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. So
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Willie, thank you for your time.
Cameron, thank you for your time. I think we both have some grass to go touch.
Yes, definitely.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
See ya.
Well.